Hello and welcome. You're listening to Saltgrass, Turning the Goldfields Green. So today's episode is being recorded as we broadcast live from the studios at Main FM, which is not usually the case for me. Today I've got Madeline Hudson with me in the studio and we're going to be talking about zero waste food. She's facilitating an online class on that topic at the Community House here in Castlemaine, which you could sign up for no matter where you're listening from. So we'll be chatting about the course and zero waste as a lifestyle choice, as it's, a bigger movement than just food, and a lot of people are trying to take it on, even in little ways. And we're also going to have a chat about her life because she's done some really interesting things and some of the other things she does around this town since she's moved out here. First, though, I want to recognise that we're talking to you from Djaara country, home of the Dja Dja Wurrung. No treaty was signed. Sovereignty was never ceded. I pay respects to the elders, past, present and emerging.
Salt of the earth. Salt. Grassroots. Salt of the earth people. Grassroots change.
Saltgrass. Listen to all episodes of Turning the Goldfields Green on saltgrass.podbean.com. Madeline, welcome.
Hello. Thank you. It's so good to be here.
It's so great to have you. So we're chatting to you about all sorts of things today, but I thought we'd start a little bit with about you and your life story and how you got here and how you got to care so much about sustainability and the environment and all of that sort of stuff, since I'm a sustainability show.
Yes.
So tell us a bit about yourself.
Well, it's nice. Yeah, it's nice to talk about my background a little bit. So I cut my teeth, my activist teeth, on frontline direct action back in the 90s.
Back in the day?
Back in the late 90s. No, it's interesting that this coming to Castlemaine has been a nice retrospective, like looking back on 20 years. It's quite a thing in one's life. But yeah, I was doing heaps of forest action, so frontline direct forest action up in East Gippsland through an anarchist collective called GECO, the Goonga Environment Centre Office. I think the acronym was the office we needed an O for. Anyway, so
acronyms are a bit like that though. You're kind of like, what words can we put together that still make sense but make the word?
So I sort of just got launched into that. I was 23. I didn't actually know that clear-fell logging was going on, which was crazy back then. And I was just like, I can't believe I didn't know it was actually going on. So I spent years and years doing.
So how did you find out?
A good friend called me and said, hey, I'm going down to a blockade down in East Gippsland. Do you want to come? I'm like, a blockade? What's that?
Sounds scary.
Sounded exciting.
Yeah, cool.
Yeah, it sounded exciting. So went down there and I spent years down there being arrested, climbing trees, locking on to machines and stuff and all that sort of frontline stuff. So
huge.
That was massive for me because that was my calling back to the earth, when you have these things inside you, and that was like, bam, this is you on the earth, Madeline. This is the way, you want to live with that direct relationship. So that really connected you to a sense of belonging to the earth, to be able to fight for it. Yeah, absolutely, and it brought me back. And then I did...
Can I just interrupt? I've spoken to a few people who've done direct action. Did you do any training in non-violent direct action before you went down there or while you were down there?
We trained ourselves on the go.
Yeah.
Yeah, because it was so cutting edge back then, and we were an anarchist collective, so we were all in our early 20s, mid-20s, doing this really full-on stuff, really full-on. And for us, it just became our way of life. And I remember a few years later going, hang on, this is not normal. And I had to pull myself out and sort of look at what we're doing and what we're going through and sort of check the trauma, the potential trauma, that physical danger we're putting ourselves in, which we did. There was some violence that happened when the timber industry was collapsing in the early 2000s and contracting, and the loggers, the contractors, the pennies were dropping. It's like, it's not the greenies who cost jobs. It's, the big fellas pulling the strings as always, and the little people losing out, and all that, squabbling over resources and squandering of resources. So it was quite a baptism by fire, I would say, to be thrown into the front line, and locking on within the first week is like bam. So it was that warrior spirit that came through. So that's, one part of the story. And then I worked at Friends of the Earth in Melbourne for quite a few years. So we went out and there was all the frontline actions that the country were being called to. So it was the forest, then it was out to Lake Eyre for anti-nuclear protests
Yep.
out at Lake Ayr South with the Arabana elder Uncle Kevin Buzzacott, and it was the Cooper Pedy Kungajuda who were doing work out there to stop uranium, the waste dump, radioactive waste dumps on their country. So again, it was a real initiatory formative years where it was like connecting to country, and so like that's what I had in my early days, and so I didn't have to rebel against the system that was making me complicit in the destruction of the earth. I was right at that frontline point.
From your early 20s.
Yeah.
But how did you grow up? Were you raised sort of like suburban middle class, or were your parents aware of this stuff? Were you raised to be aware of it, or was it just...
Well, it was funny. We were sort of middle class, like working class and middle class, and I just didn't know about it. My parents were humanitarians, so my mum's a midwife, so she was always fighting for women's, advocating for women's birthing rights and birthing centres, and fighting the obstetricians who were trying to, controlling women's birthing. And my dad's a performer and artist, so that's a humanitarian sort of pursuit as well.
Yeah.
So no, look, I wasn't exposed to it. I was really surprised when I went to uni and there was activism going on, and we were doing activism about HEX then, because I was like the first year that HEX came in.
Yeah, so people actually have to pay for, even if it's delayed, they still have a debt because they've gone to uni, whereas before that university was free. Yeah,
I was born in 1974, and that was the year when free education came in, thank you, Gough.
Yeah.
And then I was the first year, when I went to uni, I was the first year, like 91, I think, when HEX came in. I was like, dope. Spewing. But anyway, so no, I just had a really supportive humanitarian upbringing, and then earthy. We had the bush. We had the bush down the back. So it was just a given. Sorry, that's a bit more context. We just had that natural connection to... I grew up in the Blue Mountains, so we had bush and space and adventures.
And
animals and all of that. So
I find that really interesting, because of the people that I've interviewed on this show so far, a lot of them have had early childhood. They may have taken it for granted while they were young, but in retrospect, it was really foundational to their sense of feeling a connection and need to protect it.
Totally, because I saw some of my writing. When you go through, as you get older, you go, am I going to keep those books from school? Yeah. And there's poetry, like creative writing from me, where I'm like laying on rocks in the bush and listening to the hum of things buzzing around me, and that was that immersion. Yeah. That's that connection and immersion that you would take for granted. And since I've moved on to do musical education for kids through Zucchini Clan, Music for Free Range Folk, which is a musical project I've been doing for quite some time. And it's funny when you think you have to, again, take a step out and go, some people need to be introduced to this.
Yeah.
But even when I was doing direct action in the bush, the same thing was true. Like, people need to get out to these places. You need to, that was part of it. A big part of it was come out to the country, come out to the forest, and let it come, let it soak into your being. And then you're affected. You're affected by it. That cognitive dissonance is a thing that can't...
Yeah, watching a documentary on TV or online is nowhere near the experience of being immersed and surrounded by these massive trees and hearing the birds communicating with each other, like in surround sound.
Yeah, and it's the spirit of the place. Like for us, we had to go through, our generation back then, just needing the guidance of the elders, needing the guidance of the sovereign people of the country to help us, because we were white greenie activists in the forest. I mean, I could ramble on. I won't ramble on too much about this, because long story, anyone who's listening out there, from gecko and forest activism, anyone knows these sort of things. But you need the guidance, because you burn out.
Yeah.
We were like white greenie activists, wanting change, wanting it to happen, and putting our bodies on the line, and people were losing it because things weren't happening and there were political deals. And then we went out... In the early 2000s, we went out to Lake Ayr South and sort of learned about the peace fire and got some Indigenous perspectives of what it means to have to keep fighting for country.
Through generations, not just for 2 years or 5 years.
That's right, generations, what the Indigenous people have gone through, like such horrific...
The long game.
Horrific stuff, and still standing up for country and fighting for it. So that gave us the perspective, Uncle was like... Just settle down. This is the peace fire. Slow down. Yeah. And it was very poignant times for us. Yeah. And so important because, the long haul.
Yeah,
sustainability for your person, your holistic health.
Yeah, it's interesting, isn't it? I mean, that's a topic we were talking about off air earlier today, and it's definitely something I'd like to come back to and explore, because I think it is important to recognise that, different people have different needs in terms of their ability to be an activist or take things on and sort of that's changed through your life. But I interviewed Cam Walker a couple of months ago from Friends of the Earth. And it's interesting to talk to someone he is a long game activist, and he's been working in that. Because a lot of people do activism in their 20s and then move on and their lives evolve for many reasons. But he's still right there in the middle of it. And his perspective is so grounded, and he's just so realistic about what political change takes. That, that idealism of youth when you're in your 20s and you're going to save the world.
Yeah. Well, it's not happening quick enough.
Yeah.
Go on.
But like the people who've been in a long time, they're really grounded, and they're like, you just got to chip away. You just got to keep going. And it's, it might not seem like much, but it adds up to a lot over time.
It does. It really does. It's the accumulative effect that anyone who's been in any form of activism, it's a long-term thing. A lot of stuff will go down, but you'll have wins along the way, and you have to. It's interesting. You have to sort of become at peace with that. Doesn't mean you stop fighting, but you actually have to make some peace within yourself. Otherwise, you really do go down. You have a really hard time, and you'll get depressed, and you'll burn out, and you just will become bitter and bleak. And we don't want that.
No, we don't want that.
So I worked at Friends of the Earth with Cam Walker and all the crew down there. We were part of a collective called the Anti-Nuclear and Clean Energy Collective, or ACE. That was our acronym.
That's a great acronym.
Anyway, so we were working primarily with Indigenous custodians in South Australia, helping them to protect their country from the expansion of the uranium industry and mining and water.
And waste as well.
Waste, so everything, waste, water, and the actual mining and Indigenous rights, So that was what we did there. I did that for about quite a few years, 5 years, and did a radio show. I did the radioactive show at 3CR.
Yeah, cool.
Community radio station. I did that for 4 years, and I was like, pretending to be a radio journalist.
I think technically you probably were a radio journalist.
Wow, I was. I was faking it till I could make it. But so I did. I practiced that. About 2 years in, I felt like I was actually sitting in a sweet spot. But it's a lot, I was interviewing people who've been, in the game for a long time, advocating and being political advocates within the nuclear non-proliferation industry. Yeah. So it was a lot for me to work out. But it came from the heart of wanting to...
It sounds like me right now. I'm making this show and I'm talking to these people who've had a lifetime of experience, and I just take the position of, hey, I'm here to learn from you, and I want to explore what you know rather than a position of authority. And I think that's probably the best way to do it, because sustainability is so diverse. Like you can talk to a million different people and have a million different takes on what it is, and they're all what it's about. Every single interview is about a little component of that big picture. So
and that's the holistic, like the whole is greater than the sum of its parts. It's like all those parts coming together. And and so after that I worked at Friends of the Earth, did the radioactive show, and then I came out to Castlemaine about 4 years ago. So 4 seasons now. I counted in the seasons because it was me getting to come back to the earth and just grow a lot, because when I lived up in East Gippsland and I was doing forest campaigning, I just was growing lots of food, and I had this amazing, really rich river flat soil that I just had to do a tickle up a little bit, and I was just growing these huge crops of things. And so that was my sort of initiation into growing foods and the abundance that you can have, and the low impact, because all the sources are there. Even here I'm like, I'm buying stuff in plastic bag, I find I'm struggling with that at the moment, to get. So I have to stop saying,
It's different. No, don't worry. It is different here though, isn't it? Because the soil is so different here in Castlemaine. We're an upside down country. This place has been mined. Like everything that was deep in the earth has been brought up to the surface, and all the good soil that used to be here when white people first descended has disappeared. And so it's actually really hard to produce good food here. And even just like a couple of k's up the road in Harcourt, they've got volcanic soil, which is a totally different scenario.
I thought they were basalt.
Oh, is it?
They're basalt, and then down south towards Daresford is volcanic.
I
think so. Text us in if we're not quite because we're sort of sandstony.
Yeah,
and then more basalt, and then
but it's better soil is better. They can. That's where all the orchards are for a reason.
Totally. So anyway, so I came back. I came here to look after my health and just come back in time a bit.
That's what we were talking about in terms of the sustainability of the person. And I do think if we're going to play a long game and try and do what we can for as long as we can for the earth, then we do have to think about not just the sustainability of the planet, but our own personal sustainability.
Yeah, and that ties into a big central tenet of the zero waste cooking course is food, is that all those systems of nourishing yourself is central to all of that.
Yeah.
And to the health of us and totally synonymous with the health of the planet. So it's like, come on, let's do it.
Absolutely.
And how do we do it? And we're going to work out ways to keeping growing that concept, actualizing it.
Absolutely. So we'll talk about the course in a little bit, but we've got a song here that is by your band, Zucchini Clan. Do you want to tell us a little bit about the band?
Zucchini Clan, music for free range folk. It is a collaboration with my dearest long-term friend and co-collaborator Jamie Antonio, who's listening now. He lives up in East Gippsland, right in the centre of that spot in Goongerah, where we all were young forest feral activists who evolved, and we both started teaching at the school, at Goongerah School, little primary school there. It's a public school, but it's tiny, so we had a lot of leeway to do a lot of great stuff there.
And that's how you met?
We met forest through forest activism, and then we had this beautiful continuity where I was teaching at the school and doing music, and then I finished up, we tag teamed. Jamie started doing music with the kids, and he started writing these songs as part of literacy and numeracy, these great songs. And that was the first album, so that's Wildlife. This song's called Seasons, and he's going to laugh when we're playing this song because we played it a lot, and we played it live a lot, and we got a little bit sick to death of it. But it's a great song, and it sings about seasons in the gardens.
Seasons wait for no one. Get in the garden, have some fun. Plant your seeds, yum yum. Springtime's here. Growing food is a breeze. Roll your sleeves up on your knees. Pull out all the pesky weeds. Springtime's here. When the sun wakes up from its winter sleep, time to dig deep. Growing food heals the earth, saves lots of money. It's healthy work. Gotta watch what you eat. Junk food can make you sick. Water the garden, mulch it. Summertime's here. Growing veggies, summer sun. Plant a fruit tree, everyone. Go organic, yum yum. Summertime's here. When the sun wakes up from its winter sleep, time to dig deep. Growing food heals the earth, saves lots of money. It's healthy work.
Springtime's here. Springtime's here.
Now it's autumn, harvest time. Off to share yours and mine. It's abundant, so divine. Autumn time's here. In the winter, slow the beat. Turn the compost, muddy feet. Catch tadpoles, prune the trees. Winter time's here. When the sun wakes up from its winter sleep, time to dig deep. Growing food heals the earth, saves lots of money. It's healthy work.
Springtime's here. Springtime's here.
When the sun
It sure is here.
Aw,
That is a beautiful song.
That is timely and right on the beat.
Yeah. So that was an early song of the Zucchini Clan called Season.
Very early, yeah. That was our debut album. We recorded that many, many moons ago at Irene Art Studio in Brunswick.
Oh, I used to have a studio. No, I didn't. I had a studio around the corner from Irene.
All the studio crew back in the day. So that was recorded at the studio there with Dave Butt, who's an amazing co-producer and musician collaborator. And we also had another member of the band back then, Adam Gooderham, who lives in Alice Springs now. Yeah. So we started off as a trio, and then Adam left the band and we were like, oh no, what are we going to do? What are we going to do? And necessity being the mother of invention, we were like, okay, let's loop pedal. So Jamie's like, okay, come on, let's get down with the cool kids.
Get the technology happening.
Come on. And that was just a really great evolution. And then I was doing vaudeville. I fell into this. I was really lucky to fall into this great travelling medicine show called Porcelain Punch Travelling Medicine Show with really one of my best friends who was an activist as well, and a frontline activist. And so we said, let's make it theatrical. It's, we need to make it engaging. So our characters were born. Yes. So I became Lily Pilly Green because I was the garden person, and Jamie became Professor Ecocentric. And so we developed these funny characters, and we bounce off each other really well. And we had the loop pedal, and we started writing the sounds of old to keep it interesting for us, just a bit more electronic mixing up. And we can do a lot of fun stuff on stage, so it turned into a vaudeville sort of musical show.
You guys are great. I saw you live before I'd met you, actually. But you're very entertaining, and I guess some of the songs are aimed at kids, but it's entirely engaging for adults as well.
Well, you want it to be. Great. That's good, thanks. Yeah. So that's the whole idea. We're like, we don't want to listen to that inane music. We want we want it to be good music. So and it's
so when it's played on repeat endlessly in the car, the parents don't go insane.
Well, even the best song will test your limits when the way kids play songs.
True,
but but at least it would last most of the way.
So before we listened to that song, we were having a chat about your activist life in your younger years, in your 20s and early 30s maybe. And then you moved out here, and it's sort of like this. I have had this conversation a few times with people who are like frontline activists, and they sort of feel a bit ambivalent about the life changes they've made and whether they've compromised and settled down and all of that stuff. And a few people have had kids, and there's various reasons. But it is interesting why people change. And I think age and your capacity and that thing we were talking about earlier about your own sense of being able to sustain that activity is all important. So what changed for you out here?
Well, it was... Look, I just love food. I love food. I love cooking. I love growing food. I'm a really earthy person. I need the earth. I'm one of those people who...
You've got it under your fingernails right now.
I'm picking it out. I'm one of those people who, lays down and hugs the earth and does all that stuff. I go and ground myself. So I needed time out. I needed healing, and I wanted to actualize those skills. I'm like, I need to grow again. I want to do the permaculture stuff. Like, I haven't actually studied permaculture, but I've done a lot and I've read a lot. So I'm sort of always reading that information and incorporating it into my home garden. And being here is just so exciting because that food movement is happening. And for me, like, as I said, it's so important. Like, we need to look at our food. It's like number one. It's so primary for our health and for the health of the planet, like I said before.
And for the longevity of our community, to have local food sources, healthy food locally
resilience.
Produced is really important.
So I'm very, very excited to be here, even though we're in more, arid country. But locally, bioregionally, we've got really good stuff happening. So, and the local farmers market and the gung-ho growers and the Harcourt Farming Collective out there.
Yeah, and there's a bunch of local farmers who are doing small-scale, really nice, beautiful food. Yeah.
So for community lunch.
Yeah. You are the head chef and coordinator of the Castlemaine community lunch, which is organised by the community house, and it's a once-a-week lunch during term time, I think?
It is school, school term. That's right, thanks, Ali. Yeah, I was really lucky to land that job. Nikki Valentini, who used to be with Growing Abundance and now is doing also amazing culinary, holistic healing endeavours, passed it on to me. So
passed the baton.
Yeah, and it was my first head cook job. So I remember back then, it was 4 years ago. It's sort of crept off of me now. Sort of the last couple of years I've been in the flow and the routine because it is big. But I remember that first day in the kitchen going, woo, watching Nikki Valentini in the kitchen. I was like, whoa, okay. And then that's me in the kitchen now, co-collaborating with the amazing volunteers who come in. And we've had amazing volunteers who help us, and we have quite really good continuity with those volunteers, which makes for really amazing lunches, because I can just delegate and go, hey, you do that dish, and they get familiar with the way to flavour up big, because it's bulk. We get to up to about 100 people there for community lunch. I'm sure lots of people listening have enjoyed community lunch, so I feel very blessed and humbled to do that work.
So what do you see community lunch's role in community? Because I know it's quite affordable, so it's there as a resource for people who maybe don't have a lot of cash resources. But what else does it do in the community?
Well, it's that all the stuff we're sort of talking about before, just that continuity of connection, of community connection around food, bringing it back to those fundamental principles, and inclusivity, being inclusive.
Yeah, and I think it's a weekly ritual for a lot of people. You see the same people there week after week, and they sit down at these big tables and chat to whoever's there, and so it does build community. And I think that's one of the powerful things about food generally, is that it's often the very centre of a community. When you think about a culture, you often think about their food. If you think about Greek culture, you think about Greek food. If you think about Chinese culture, you think about Chinese food. Like it's so fundamental to identity and connection to others, and builds strength in a community, doesn't it?
Thanks for answering that question for me, Ali. Yeah, I sort of get stuck in. I'm in the middle of just doing it, but no, all of that. And I suppose, stepping out. I know people are missing it out there, and so
because of COVID, it had to close down because of COVID.
So it transferred into the food pantry, and I'm still doing the food pantry out in Malden. So that's cooking similar foods, really yummy foods, wholesome foods, and packaging them, freezing them, and getting them out to people who need a bit of support.
Well, that's great.
And we did that for quite a few months as well up here in Castlemaine. So that was really great. And then we've just had a bit of time out to have a little think and a reappraise, and just again, I think a lot of people during this COVID times are doing little personal audits and reevaluating their lives and what is really important, and also just really looking at sustainable practices. And food security is like food, water, resources security is number one. So it's so fundamental. So we're doing that at community lunch as well. We've just been having a little look at how the system has been going, having a bit of a retrospective, and looking into the future of how we can keep supporting local food systems. How can we bring in just keep bringing in more sustainable local food products and still keep it affordable for people, so still keeping it accessible for people to come. And of course it's a suggested donation of $5 at the moment, $5, and so you'll never be turned down. Come along. And that's really important, because again, we're so fortunate, and we can take for granted that we are looked after and we're healthy and we have access to all this food and we have community and family, but as we know, not everyone has that. And so it's so important for a community to keep opening up those avenues for people who might be a bit alone. It's like the worst thing ever, to be alone on so many levels, to not have that support.
Absolutely.
But food's basic nourishment, so
food and company.
That's right.
Yeah.
Soul food.
And so you're about to run a zero waste food course.
That's right.
We'll go to that in a minute, but I thought I'd just see if community lunch incorporates some of the elements of zero waste food. So how does community lunch do some of that stuff? Well,
on the food side, we've got it covered, of course, because we cook up so much food, and there's so many ways we can value add, especially cooking for Castlemaine on the Tuesday and then cooking for Malden. So I can cook up a lot, and then I can cool it down and then use it, so I can value add the next day. And then we have the compost system, and we have food that goes to compost, to the worms, to the pigs, to the chooks, and we have people who are like, can I have your compost? They come with this feverish look in their eyes and want the community lunch compost. And so that's easy. And that's systems, pretty basic. Packaging, we do bulk stuff, but packaging, as you know, we were chatting earlier, that's a challenge to zero waste.
That's the whole challenge of zero waste, isn't it? Is packaging.
It is.
That's entirely it. And it's especially when you're buying in bulk and things, it's really hard not to have that plastic around whatever it is you're buying.
It is, and we can recycle that soft plastic, but we all feel so jaded about the recycling system, and of course best to stop it at the source and deconsume and start.
Yeah, absolutely. And plastic recycling in general is imperfect. Like, it's never 100% used, and there are, you know, toxic waste, like fumes and things that happen in the recycling process. So it's imperfect, but it is better than just chucking it in landfill or letting it degrade and enter the environment. So it's definitely better to collect it and recycle it than not do that. But the best thing to do is to not have it in your system in the first place.
Yeah, so at community lunch, once I got organised and I stopped sort of being on the hop and just like doing this amazing big thing that I was doing for the first time, I just started making sure I got my spices in bulk, so I had containers. So I went, come on, Mad, stop, pull up. You want to have your containers, so I'd go and fill them up. And you know, and so zero waste in terms of packaging is all about having your own packages to put things in that are durable. So look, you know, we've been going through and seeing how we can improve the system and still make things affordable. Definitely food miles is something that's big in my life, in my personal life. I try to buy things as locally as possible, farmers markets, local growers, and then Australian produce. I have forgone a few things that I don't buy in nuts and dried fruit. I don't buy them because I can't buy them here. But then, as we were discussing earlier off air, there's fair trade. So there's certain things that are important to support growers who are doing, like organic fair trade is important.
Yeah, well, organic fair trade, I think, even if it's travelled some distance, is perhaps better than non-organic pesticide farming in an environment in Australia which isn't supposed to grow those things because it's the wrong climate, and we're using all our water resources and all of that stuff to grow things that shouldn't be grown here.
That's right.
So I think that food miles is definitely one lens to look at things in, but it's not the only lens.
That's right, and that's what we start looking at in the zero waste cooking course. It really goes in and unpacks and deconstructs these sort of calculations, which is cool. So that's fun, and it's not about beating yourself up. This is about empowering each other, empowering each other to co-collaborate, to work towards. We're working towards this low impact lifestyle that benefits us and the beings and all the other animals and the systems on the planet.
The entire system
that we are inextricably linked to.
Yeah, so. And I do think that a lot of people find even reducing. I did Plastic Free July and did a series, like 2 programs on this a couple of years ago with a couple of mates, Mel and Rachel, and we just took on the Plastic Free July challenge, and we did a show at the start of the month and discussed what we thought might be challenging and, you know, how we might get around it. And then at the end of the month, we had a look back and saw what had really unfolded. And the reality is none of us achieved a plastic-free July, but we did our best. And I think that's the main thing, is to become more conscious of it and just be aware of what your alternatives are. And you may not do it every time, but if you do it more often, that's better than never.
Yeah. What was the most challenging thing for you to be plastic free? What was the hardest one?
One of the things that I did through that month but didn't persist in was getting my animal food from taking my containers to the butcher or to the animal meat place out in Chewton and having that filled up and then going back, and because they ask you to leave it there and then come and collect it. And if I'd really gotten into a good routine with that, so I did that a couple of times during that month, but I didn't persist with that, which is I'm disappointed in. But I have found some good tins of dog food, which is 100% recyclable. So tin is one of the best recycled products. If you're going to recycle stuff, there's almost zero loss in tin, and glass comes shortly after that. But yeah, it's still a resource and it still takes energy to recycle stuff. So ultimately it would be better if I did take my containers and get them filled up, and created that routine for myself where every Saturday morning I went down, left them some containers, picked up some others. Yep. You know, that'd be a nice little system.
Yeah, and it's about systems. It's all about systems and habits and systems and routines. So like, again, I feel so fortunate that we have the weekly farmers market, then we have the market on the Saturday, and so I try to structure my week around that. I mean, and then you can have some fun about, like I said, you don't don't give yourself a hard time and try to strip yourself of all your comforts, but you just little by little go, no, that's that beautiful product that I love, but look what it comes in, and look, and I don't want to recycle it. I can't put it in my own jar. Oh,
yeah. Well, one of the things that I abstained from for the month, but knew that I didn't want to abstain from forever, was dry biscuits, like crackers, to have cheese and crackers. I love that. And you just can't buy them without plastic around it because they go soft, so they're not going to sell you stuff that is going to be soft by the time you open it in your cardboard with no plastic.
They're called crackers for a reason.
Yeah, I know. They
crack. Yeah.
But recently, and I didn't figure this out back then 2 years ago, but recently I've found a really great recipe for crackers that I can bake myself, and all of the ingredients I can get in bulk from the local Whole Foods supplier. And it's brilliant. And that just makes me so happy that I'm no longer purchasing a product that requires plastic wrapping, even if that plastic is technically recyclable in soft plastic.
You're practically glowing over there, Ali, as you say that, I can see. So these are the sort of things that we're going to be doing in the cooking course. So I'll get that recipe from you. So we're going to have fun. So it's going to be 9 weeks. It starts next Monday, everybody. Sorry for the short notice. But if you're hot to trot, it's via Zoom. So you can do it anywhere. It's going to be on a Monday morning, 3.5 hours. So 9 o'clock till the 1, with a half an hour break. And it's 9 weeks, and we alternate each week with a practical cooking lesson. So I'll be in the kitchen via Zoom, which is going to be really fun for me, down at Community House.
Do you have a camera person helping you do the Zoom? Or
it'll be me. It'll be basic but adequate. Yeah. We had a little tech the other day, and then you'll be, and you lovely people, dear listeners, if you sign up to the course, will be in your kitchens, which is sort of cool because that's where we want to start actualising.
You can cook along with.
Yeah, and it's sort of, we went, it'd be nice to do it not via Zoom, but that's the way it is at the moment. Just keep it the way the world is right now. But then we thought, look, on the other hand, it's about actualising these practices and systems in your own life. So, in your own kitchen, in situ, is sort of cool.
Yeah.
Anyway, so
everyone, go to your cupboard. Have you got this? Have you?
People are going to be renovating their kitchens to make them look all house and garden before I see into the window into their life.
You've got 1 week to renovate your kitchen.
You're doing doilies and things. Okay, so anyway, and then we alternate with these great theory sessions that are going to be like workshopy theory sessions about food systems, about the resources that are wasted throughout the food system, the commercial one, then looking at sustainable food systems, being wise with water, reducing household kitchen waste, and then and how climate change is impacting the food systems in our communities. So there's a lot of really interesting data and information and exercises, like fun exercises and role plays even.
Yeah, great.
Yeah.
That'll be heaps of fun.
And I'm facilitating the course, so I'm sure I'm going to do as many role plays as possible. Costumes, optional costumes. But so I think the course is going to be great. If you've been immersed in sustainability practices and information and permaculture for years and years, probably not for you. But anyone else, if you're starting out, this sounds really exciting, and we can tailor it as well as we go along. I think I'll get the feel for who signs up, and we will see, where we go with it. But the basic.
So the people who sign up can let you know what they want, and you'll shape things a bit for whoever signs up. If
you're interested, I'll talk to you. I'll give you a chat and sort of like let you know the basic structure of the course. It's the first time we've run this course. It was based on the Jesuit College Zero Waste course through their sustainability hub. So it's been run a few times, and it's great that the Community House is taking it on. So it's the first time I'm running it, and then
hopefully you'll run it into the future.
I think so.
Yeah,
I think it's a great thing.
I've noticed a few people commenting on your online posts saying, I want to do it, but I can't do that time.
And it's going to be so fun. We will be doing these great cooking practical sessions where we're actualising great recipes. About
making it real. Yeah.
So
great.
Yeah.
Well, you mentioned water there. Shall we play a song that you've written about water?
Yeah. So this is off our latest EP, which is, a couple of years old now. But Zucchini Clan, this is our second album. It's called Heirloom Mix. And we had this great collaboration, again, at Irene Art Studio with a wonderful fellow called Matrix Motion, he's a great electronica producer and musician. So we collaborated with him and wrote a whole other batch of songs. Yeah, let's hear this. This is called The Water Song.
When I'm really, really thirsty and I need something to drink, I stop and think. before I buy that plastic bottle in the shop in the fridge. Stop and think. When I'm really, really thirsty and I need something to drink, I stop and think. I stop and think. Before I buy that plastic bottle in the shop in the fridge, I stop and wonder where the water came from and how many roads it traveled along. It's not quite right, it feels so wrong, and that's the reason we're singing the song. To this precious water planet that's teetering on the brink. I stop and think, I stop and think. Before I buy the plastic bottle in the shop in the fridge, I stop and wonder where the water came from and how many roads it traveled along. It's not quite right, it feels so wrong, and that's the reason we're singing this song.
Nine spoons of sugar in a can of soft drink, I stop.
'Cause did you know there are places where you swim in the river, where you can drink while you swim, drink while you swim. 'Cause the water's so crystal clear, you can just open your mouth and let it flow right in. Swimming upstream feels like a dream, and no joke, stroke and I am drinking the sweet water, and I can taste the rocks, I can taste the moss, I can taste the reeds, I can taste the story of where this river's been. And now I'm back in the city, and I'm watching this water gurgling down the sink, and it makes me think. It makes me think. It makes me think. Oh, it makes me. Don't you think we oughta think about the water? Don't you think we oughta think about the water? Don't you think we oughta think about the water? Don't you think we oughta think about the water? Don't you think we oughta think about the water? Don't you think we oughta think about the water? Don't you think we oughta think about the water? Don't you think we oughta think about the water? Don't you think we oughta think about the water? Don't you think we oughta think about the water? Don't you think we oughta think about the water? Don't you think we oughta think about the water? Think about the water.
You are listening to Main FM 94.9, and this is Saltgrass, Turning the Goldfields Green. Today I'm talking to Madeline Hudson about her zero waste food course that she's running through Community House. If you're interested in the course, of course, you should go to the Community House website and book in.
The course, of course.
Of course.
Turning into a musical. Very good. Yeah. So through Community House.
So the Castlemaine Community House website, cch.org, I think, is where you would book in to do the course. And you don't have to be local to Castlemaine to do it. So any of you listening out there who are not local, feel free to book on in, because it's online, as everything is these days.
You need to be able to Zoom, which most of you can. Got an aversion to Zoom. I reckon this would be a good one to Zoom in if you haven't done much Zoom, because it's actually really fun. It's actually quite intimate, because our little faces are right there. It's like the Brady Bunch, or like in the Zoom.
Yeah, you get to see all your other classmates. And so tell us a bit more about the course. What are some of the key things that you'll be covering aside from what you mentioned earlier?
I did cover most of the key things, but I wanted to mention some of the fun things that we're going to be learning in the cooking side of the course, which is just really value adding those what seemed like waste products. So just cooking your own veggie stock, like all the old school things that our grandparents would do. You would not. You would value add the scraps. Yeah. You would do that sort of stuff. So
nothing's wasted.
No, and I was just laughing before we were talking about, and that song, the water song, Mal Webb, who's an amazing multi-instrumentalist, a musician who plays the horns on the water song. He is part of the ensemble Formidable Vegetable with Charlie McGee, who's amazing. They sing all about permaculture. And he has a great song that goes, "There's no such thing as waste, only things in the wrong place." And that's pretty much the central tenet of it. So we're going to learn some cool things about preserving, bottling, fermenting, pickling, drying, making pestos, and we can just share. It's a co-collaboration too in that regard. I'll be facilitating it, and then we all come to the party with you might have some great ideas as well. So it's not like I'm the teacher or the expert. I'll be facilitating this great thing, this information and the cooking, and I'll have my areas that I'm experienced in, and you can contribute as well. But you'll definitely learn lots of stuff, and we can share a lot of fun times together.
Excellent. So what do you think people will get out of this course? What do you think people will leave with?
Yeah, it's interesting. Like, the course was set up as a vocational sort of taster as well.
Through the TAFE system, so it's got some links to units in the TAFE system, but it's not actually accredited this time round. You're just sort of running it.
Yeah, as far as I believe, we'll double check that. But it's again, it's going to be inspiring, informative. Hopefully you can start actualising these practices in your life, and it also could lead to pathways in food industry and sustainable food industry. So working at the farmers markets, or food distribution, or food reclamation, food hubs, community gardens.
Might just give you a taste of which direction you actually want to go in, if you just know you love food and sustainability, and how do you bring those two things together outside of just how you operate your own home. What else could you do with it, so that people might get a few ideas about directions and things like that?
Absolutely. And I think what would be reaffirmed as well, and that I think of all the time when I'm thinking of ways in my life to live like this and live low impact, is it is a real collaboration. We're so interdependent on each other, which of course we are. Yeah. Just like all systems on the earth, we're all linked and we all affect each other. So to practice these sustainable practices, we all have to do it together. So we see how we all fit in together and support each other.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Pretty much it's some really fun sort of deconstructing of the current food systems, and sort of looking at how these different phases of the current commercial food industry is pretty shocking.
So some of the stuff people may not expect from a cooking class is some of the more like bigger picture stuff about how the food industry works and what choices you can make when you're purchasing to avoid the hidden impacts of our food industries.
Hidden impacts behind the whole system, and then hidden water impacts, all the different things, like to really reveal and peel back the layers of what the true cost of food is, and how in our commercial non-organic system it's not the true cost of food, something's going wrong there badly, and the earth is paying, and we're paying these prices that are subsidised, and it's not really what food is worth. So there's a lot of damage going on in those systems.
Absolutely. Well, maybe we'll head out with a song, unless there's anything else you wanted to talk about.
I just wanted to give a little plug for Zucchini Clan, Music for Free Range Folk. So you can go online, you can go to Bandcamp, and you can buy our latest album, which is Electric Heirloom Mix, which is the water song was on. And we've got some great songs on that album, and you can buy our first album there. And check us out, because it's really fun. I'm enjoying being my character, Lily Pilly Green, and walking the talk pretty much.
Yeah, brilliant. Yeah. Well, as usual, there will be lots of links at the bottom of the podcast description, and we'll have links to the Zucchini Clan as well as to the Community House course, and some info generally about zero waste, not just food. And actually, we were talking earlier today, Mads.
Yes.
And I don't know if we're actually up for it, but I was thinking perhaps we could just check in in a month or 2 months, and just sort of set some personal challenges for ourselves.
Definitely.
About zero waste living, because I don't know anyone who's really achieved that, and I think it's very difficult. Like, even just doing plastic free for a month was really challenging. And you asked me earlier what one thing was that I really failed at, and it was actually my medication. I'm asthmatic, and I couldn't get my asthma medication without it being a plastic container, and even painkillers are usually in a plastic little cellofoil pop thing, and it's really difficult.
Well, that goes into herbal medicines and
I know it is a whole different way. I mean, I'm seeing a naturopath right now, and you should see the collection of plastic bottles I've got from all the pills she's giving me. But that's a different story.
Yeah, we'll leave that one out maybe for the moment. But if anyone's out there listening, we're really keen for people to pop their hand up and say, I want to do a zero waste, or aim towards zero waste challenges. So if you're keen in your life, we'll be really happy. It'd be really fun to track your progress.
Yeah. And so I might catch up with you, Mads, in a month or two, and we can maybe chat about whether we have succeeded in creating even just one element of our lives that we're challenged by right now in terms of zero waste. If we could achieve one thing, what would it be? And me cooking my crackers and how proud I am of them is a really good example of how great it can feel when you figure it out. And really it is just figuring it out, isn't it?
Is.
And sometimes that's what people don't have. They don't have the time to spend to think about it, to figure it out. And that's where a course like this is so helpful, because you've done the research for people and they can just come and benefit from your great ideas about.
And it's infinite. Like this will be a great scaffolding with lots of information and deconstruction of systems that are unsustainable, and looking at how we can create a sustainable future. But it's actually infinite in terms of what you can bring to the table and how we can evolve and be more sustainable and tread lightly on this beautiful earth. And support each other and have fun.
Yes.
So that's like talking to you today and thinking about facilitating this course, I'm getting excited about that central element, that it's not grounded in, I've got to go without, or the burden or the heavy weight.
It's not about lack or absence or abstinence.
No, it's not about lack, it's about abundance. And when we all put in, and hang on, that's one beautiful thing I'd love to share, because when I was blockading back in the day, I got to experience what it was when everyone pooled their money resources, because actually we were all on our Centrelink grants at the time to fund us doing this direct frontline action, this direct action. And I tell you what, it was amazing to experience.
I think that's a good use of the government's money. I'll just put that in there.
No, it is. It definitely is. So we were fine. We were totally fine. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
To do that, and we not only did we not go without, we just had so much. We had so much, because we all for one and one for all. We just, everyone put their money in. We all just looked after each other, because that was the imperative of being on a front line and living in a camp. And that stayed with me. That stayed with me as well.
Yeah, that sense of abundance that could happen exactly when you think you might be most hard pressed.
The irony of that, when you're under pressure like that. So I think that's coming through a lot more, and I think COVID really brought that up, that the abundance and the generosity and the spirit of us to connect and to share, so no one goes without. And again, Community House is all about that. Yeah, Community Lunch is all about making sure that we share the joy. That's everyone's birthright.
Salt of the earth. Salt. Grassroots. Salt of the earth people. Grassroots change.
Saltgrass. Listen to all episodes of Turning the Goldfields Green on saltgrass.podbean.com. My name is Alison Hanley, and I have been your host today. I hope you've enjoyed the episode. You can follow us on Facebook or subscribe to our emailing list to get reminders and updates about the show. We'd love to hear from you if you have ideas for topics, know someone amazing we should talk to, have a recycling tip, a green product review, or have a song recommendation. Again, email us at saltgrasspodcast@gmail.com. This program was made possible with support from the Community Broadcasting Foundation. Find out more at cbf.org.au. This program was produced in partnership with the Mount Alexander Sustainability Group, MASG, and Main FM.